All right, so hey guys, Pat Tokuyama here, creator of All Day Like a Shark, where I share my Japanese cooking videos once a week showing you guys how to make Japanese food. Today I have our special guest, Amanda Rigby, the dietitian that we've been sharing videos with the past week or during the past few days. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing for more videos like this one, and let me go ahead and introduce Amanda. Amanda, would you like to give a quick intro about who you are?
Hi guys, my name's Amanda. Like Pat said, I'm a registered dietitian. I own a virtual nutrition practice called Feel Thyself Nutrition, and I'm excited to have done this 3-day series with Pat. So make sure if this is your first video, make sure you go check out the last two that we did. We talk a lot about incorporating a plant-based style of eating and how we can put a Japanese spin on things, which is so awesome. So it's a cool combination of both sides of
Yeah,
our
and
specialties and
make
bringing
sure
them
to check
together.
out the links in the description below. We have our couple resources for you, which is under the resource section. And then we also have links to both of our websites if you're interested in seeing what other products that we have to offer for you, and if you're interested in learning more or working with us. So we're going to go ahead and get into our presentation. Today's topic is going to be all about soy and fermented foods. So Amanda has put together a little presentation for you, and let me go ahead and pull that up. And meanwhile, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. And
Yeah, this will be like a fun nutrition myth busting night. And I get those two specifically, soy and fermented foods, and a lot of gut health talk. So I'm excited to kind of dive in there and kind of set the record straight about both sides of the conversation, because they are very hot topics right now, especially if we're talking about incorporating more of a plant-based diet in your life. So I'm excited to dive in. Yeah, feel free to add any other questions in the chat
all
box.
right.
Bust
Wait,
all the myths.
just a second. Just a second.
All right, so let's
Not
get
sharing
right
that
into
screen.
it. Yeah,
Hold on. Oh, you can see it?
I can see it.
It's showing on my side. Let me change the window just a second.
If you guys can guess how long it took me to spell conundrum, you will win the prize. Try to write that out.
I will say 15 seconds.
Even this looking.
That's my
I backspaced a lot. I think I probably did
guess.
wrong, and then just right clicked and.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, perfect. So today we're going to talk about, like we said, soy products. Are they considered a health food? Are they dangerous? We'll talk about all things fermented. We'll talk about gut health, because that is my favorite topic and the one I am most known for. And we'll talk about which foods we can incorporate from those categories in a healthy diet, one that is looking to be more plant-based. And then we'll go over some next steps, like Pat had said. If you want to work more closely with him or myself, we'll talk about ways that you can do that at the end. All right, next slide. Perfect. So soy, health food or dangerous? Let's talk about soy in and of itself. So soy foods are rich in a lot of nutrients that all kind of come like in this one. I call it like a jam pack. So you get a lot of B vitamins. It's a good source of fiber, potassium, magnesium, and it's a good source of protein. So unlike a lot of other plant-based protein sources, soy products are complete proteins, which means they contain all 9 essential amino acids that the body doesn't make. So in that sense, if we can't make it, we have to take it in the food sense. So soy is a complete protein, meaning that it can stand on its own in a diet. Next slide. So you see here, soy in relation to the amount of calories it provides, the fat, and some minerals. It has pretty good specs, like volume for volume. So there's 10 grams of protein per under 100 calories. So it's a good protein source. So whole soy foods are a good option if you're trying to look to swap some of maybe the animal protein and incorporate, again, more plant-based sources into your diet. Next slide. So the issues with soy that come up. So people are kind of like, isn't soy gonna kill us and give us cancer and all these things? So I looked through a lot of different research and kind of read both sides of things, and then came to the articles that we use more in the professional setting that kind of clear out all of um, the opinions and the feelings associated with certain science. And soy is a big one that kind of gets a little riled up on both sides. So basically, soy products contain phytates, which is just a compound that can bind to some minerals inside the body. And at some points, it can potentially become harmful. So when I was looking at the research, it really um, it's easy to kind of run with that information and just say, okay, it's going to kill us because it has these compounds in there. But when they were studied in certain studies, the dosage of the soy that people were consuming were usually not a normal amount that a normal person would have at any given day. They're eating pounds of it or 5, 6 times a day. It also didn't really specify or take into consideration the type of soy that was used. So again, if we go back to our first day's talk, we were talking about which types of soy products to use, and you always want to use an organic, fermented, or sprouted soy. We'll go over that in the next slide too. But so those things weren't really taken into consideration because there are crappier types of soy products, like anything. So in those senses, in the studies that really kind of do more of like the shocking claims, there wasn't really saying which type of soy product was used. So again, they could have used a less superior version. They didn't study or state which kind of population it was. So was it, specific population, specific country, specific races and things, all will come into play with how someone reacts to certain food products. Or even like the type of person. Were they sick to begin with? Do they have something underlying? So all of those things you have to consider when you look at a study. And that's kind of where some of the research falls short with soy. And again, those big claims that it's gonna kill us or cause cancer, something like that. Next slide. So basically, we just will want to, that upper quadrant there, we want to stay away from things that are food-like products that are made with soy instead of, usually it's meat, so it's usually a good replacement for an animal product. So we don't want these like concentrated dosages of soy protein. We don't want the soy hot dogs and the soy burgers. We definitely want to stay away from soybean oil. So check your food labels for that kind of stuff. Again, these are lower quality soy products. Again, I'm going to promote organic sources of soy, and again, staying away from the food-like products where they're just kind of substituting it in. So instead, you're going to want to use whole soy foods, again, organic. You're going to want to incorporate some of the Japanese foods that Pat talked about yesterday, and they end up at the same time, like we were saying, recommendation-wise, organic, fermented, sprouted soy products. So those things like miso, natto, tempeh, and tofu. So fermented soy leads us into our next slide, which is all about all things fermented. But basically, the research kind of sits here, and it says that soy is a nutrient-dense source of protein that can be safely consumed a couple times a week. It's likely to provide health benefits, like we talked about the first day, and especially when you, again, sub it out for red or processed meat alternatives. So that's pretty much the bottom line when it comes to soy products. So, like you said, we like organic fermented soy. So what's up with this fermented word, and what does it really mean? And it brings us back to my favorite place, the gut microbiome, which is inside our digestive system, housing trillions of bacteria and microbes. I call it like our little garden, our personal garden. And it kind of sets the tone for our entire life, really, because there's so much cells there and so much bacteria. It's like hundreds of times more than DNA we have in our body. So it kind of runs the show there. We know that 70% of our immune system is based in our gut microbiome. We know that it has a direct correlation to our brain. So things like that are really important when we think about feeding it and treating it nicely, right? Because there's definitely a way that we could eat that would either feed or fight what's going on in our little garden, right? Um, our gut microbiome regulates our hormones, our appetite, our cravings for carbs and sugary foods. So, again, we really want to make sure that we're giving it the right stuff that will help those things flourish and not necessarily work against us. Next slide. So, fermented foods, again, in the source of fermented soy products, and we'll give you a bunch on the next slide of types of foods that are also fermented. Why they're good for the gut microbiome, our gut gardens, is because they're a form of probiotics. And that's pretty much the food, the good food for our belly bacteria. Um, so, it's a convenient way to get those in through fermented foods. And it's, again, the bioavailability is good, and these again are going to help support our ability to absorb nutrients, fight infection, again, keep that brain health up to par, because again, everything is stemming from right there. So let's look at our next slide and see what food sources these look like. So you can see here, Pat might have to help me with some of these words. He tried teaching them yesterday, but we'll see. So things like sauerkraut, the kombucha, the tea that everyone's drinking nowadays is a source of fermented foods. Natto, miso, soy sauce. So all these
shiokoji, and we have katsuobushi, which is the dried fermented katsuo or bonito fish. It's also smoked as well, so that's why it has a really rich flavor. We also have amazake, which is, you would think that if you know Japanese, you would think that it sounds like sweet sake, but it's actually a non-alcoholic drink. It's made with the same koji, which is the aspergillus, the mold that's used to produce soy sauce, as well as miso and many other food products. And then below that, we have kalpis, which is another fermented drink. If you didn't know that, it's a little bit on the sweet side. It's kind of like Gatorade, but a little bit more of a delicate flavor. And then, but they sell it at a lot of different, I guess, Asian grocery stores. If you look in the drink section, it's
I guess I just
usually
didn't
has
know
like
the
a
name.
white. I think they have different flavors now, but back in the day when I was growing up, they just had one flavor, and it came with like a white bottle and blue bubbles on it. It's pretty tasty, and it's not too sweet. It's not overly sweet like American Gatorade might be, or Propel.
Cool.
I guess it's more close to Propel, not so much Gatorade.
Yeah.
And then below that, we have tsukemono, which is pickled things, or literally tsukeru in Japanese means to like stick something, and then mono is just thing. So it's tsukemono is like pickled vegetables, as well as other different types of foods. And there's literally like hundreds of types of tsukemono. If you ever go to Japan and you go to one of the local markets, some of the local people will be selling their homemade tsukemono. And it would be a great way for you to get a different taste than what you might be able to commercially find in your own home country. And then below that, we have umeboshi, which is pickled plum. So some of you may be familiar with this. They use it for, you can use it for sweets. You can use it for just a garnish for your rice, to season your white rice, for example. You can even make liquor out of it. So umeshu is umeboshi that's been put into shochu, or a distilled alcoholic drink, and that's pretty popular among a lot of young people in Japan. And then we have kimchi, which is a Korean food, but the Japanese have put their own spin on that, and tastes a little bit different. It's not as potent, in my opinion. It's not as spicy. It doesn't have as sharp of a flavor as Korean kimchi, and that's another example of Japanese fermented food.
Wow. Yum. I love adding things like that to my salads or to like sandwiches, things like that. I'm always trying to get in some sort of fermented food.
I would say soy sauce is probably the hardest.
Are those like easy to make? But so I'm thinking like the kimchi.
For sure.
I love
kimchi is very doable. I think I've never done it myself,
I could make at home.
But I believe it only takes like a week, if I'm not mistaken. And then umeboshi, I think that's more of a longer process. Tsukemono, you can do your own as well. Cool. It usually takes a few days if you want to do like a quick recipe, or you can leave it, I think, anywhere from 1 to several months to pickle, or even like 6 months I've seen. Amazake you can make in About a day. I think it only
Wow.
takes about 10 hours. Last time I did it, you need like a special rice cooker to control the temperature so that the bacteria doesn't get killed. Because if it gets too hot, it's going to die, and then if it gets too cold, it's not going to ferment. Um, so I would say in terms of doing something on your
Ah.
own, probably the tsukemono, as well as the amazake, or you can even try doing miso if you're patient. Um, or because miso takes about 6 months, anywhere from 3 to 6 months before you can actually use it. And natto as well. If you've ever had natto, it kind of doesn't really smell so good. I didn't like eating it when I was a kid, but somehow, somehow I grew into eating it. And that one you can do in a couple days as well. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Next slide. Let's see what we got. So, okay, yeah, like we said, I mean, like I was saying, I try to incorporate some sort of fermented food into my diet at least every day. Again, we're thinking about those gut bugs and giving them what they're looking for. So they need those probiotics, and these are quick ways to get those in. So you want to look for the words naturally fermented if you're going to find a product in the store. If this is something that you're going to start doing that you've never done before, my only suggestion would be to start slow and build up gradually, because when you introduce all these new, we call them like gut bugs, but when you introduce all these new healthy bacteria to your digestive system, you could have a little, I don't know, response to it if it's too much at once, because there's so much new stuff happening. And I like a variety, of course, so you can get multi strains of all the healthy
Can I ask you a
bacteria
question
so
about
that your
that?
gut gets a little bit
So
of
you
everything
said
that
that
it
your
wants and
body might
needs.
have a response
Yeah.
to too much
Yeah.
fermented food. So what does that mean? Like, am I going to get diarrhea?
Yeah. So if you haven't, yeah, so it could be like bloating, burping, like digestive little things. Nothing like, if no, not diarrhea, I wouldn't say. Just, I don't know, like a little, maybe a bellyache or something. But it's just trying to, it's, if you're coming
Right.
from, remember that standard American diet that we saw on the first day of everything processed and refined and nothing really too natural. It's a whole new look, you can imagine, for the gut to start getting all these, like, this new army of stuff coming in. So it'll just take a little minute to get used to it. So I would just start slow and build up, have it multiple times a day, um, when you get to
Okay.
that point. But I wouldn't
Good to know.
go
Thank you for that.
off the bat starting like that because you might get a little belly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I like to do, I mean, what's easiest for me, and that's why I was asking, like, are these things I could make at home? Because I'm always buying things like pickled vegetables. I use a lot of those, a good amount of those Japanese products already, which I was excited about yesterday. I was like, I have that in my fridge. But I love adding like kimchi, like I said, to sandwiches, to tacos that you can make at home. Um, Even just like over rice, on top of salads. We talked about on the first day how we can kind of maybe just pick that one day a week to try a plant-based day. So you could sub things like tempeh for your meat. If you do like a meatless Monday is really popular right now. Um, Easy way is miso soup. Like, how good is miso soup? Everyone loves that. Add kimchi to veggie stir fries, to ramen bowls, to Buddha bowls, whatever we're making, or even just sip on a kombucha. The next thing I'm trying to learn is how to make kombucha at home. But the patience thing, that's where I'm getting weary with, like, the whole 6 months I'm going to be sitting here like, I'm ready, but it's not ready for me. So
So,
sometimes I just
Amanda,
try
can you
it.
talk
But
about
it is cool to
real
know how easy
kombucha
it is
versus
to make
not
at
real
home.
kombucha? Is there a difference?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, of course, making it on your own, you can get to control the ingredients in it, especially, like, the sugar content, so that's usually where, um, the store brand ones, now that it's kind of a hot topic, fermentation and gut health and things like that, everyone's trying to make a product, which is great, but you kinda just need to know what to look for. So the store-bought ones, usually will have a lot of sugar because realistically, it's like a vinegar acidy based drink, but no one really loves to sip on that for fun. So they have to add some flavorings to it and, who knows what. So you just want to see like what it's sweetened with and then how much is used. And they kind of trick you because the bottles of kombucha are usually two servings. So it might not look like there's say there's 12 grams of sugar in it, there's actually going to be 24 if it's a 2 serving bottle.
Good to
So just
know.
little things like that you want to watch out for that you don't really have control over if you don't make it at home. Sorry. All right. So bringing it home with you and I. Next one. Let's tell them how they can work with us, or if they want to keep
So
hearing
yeah,
more from us, how they
if
can
you
do
guys are
that.
interested in learning more about some of the programs that we offer, so I have put together a soy, tofu, and okara workshop. If you're interested in learning how to make homemade soy milk, as well as tofu and other soy-based Japanese-style dishes, as well as a tofu ryori online program that goes with my tofu cookbook. And then Amanda also has a 21-day spring challenge, which you can get more info for both of those or both of our programs using the link below. So the bit.ly/PTARLIVE19, or you can just use the link in the description of the video below. Both of them will put you, if you sign up for the email list, then we will go ahead and send you those offers that are going to be time sensitive. They're going to both expire this Sunday at 6 o'clock Pacific time. So if you're interested in working with us, those are two options that you have at this time. So I think, Amanda, would you like to add anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was great. Looking forward to hearing how we did and any feedback or questions.
Yeah, so
keep
this is
them
the
coming
first
as
live
we
training that
keep this
both
thing rolling
Amanda
till
and I
Sunday.
have done, I think individually and as a collaboration. So let us know if you have any feedback, any questions. We'll definitely respond to all your questions if we get any. And if there's any way that we could have made this better for you, please let us know. And then I think other than that, we had a few questions. Amanda, if you would be able to take a couple. Okay. So
Yeah.
one of the questions that I got in the Daidokoro group was, is soy okay for women to eat?
Yeah. So again, that was kind of that's like always the instant like, but can women have it? So it gets confusing because people hear the word estrogen and soy contains, these phytoestrogens. So they hear the same word, of the hormones that we make and produce, and they get concerned with like, are we going to have too much? Is it going to be, like an overflowing amount? So I think again, it's just going to go down to dosage, so serving size, and then the source of it. So I wouldn't completely take any one food group off the table. So in this sense, again, we're just going to want to stick to those basics from the recommendation slide of, an organic fermented soy product, no hydrolyzed, hydrogenated soybean oils, things
Okay.
like that. So no fake hot dogs, So if women are eating, whole
Yeah, I think both
quality
of us
soy
like
products,
the
they can be part of
whole
a
food
regular
plant-based
healthy
diet,
diet.
and that's one of the things that she alluded to with Michael Pollan's book at the very beginning on day one. So if you haven't watched that yet, make sure to check out the replay. That's one of the books that really influenced me in changing my diet in terms of eating less meat. I used to eat meat on a daily basis until I read that and some other books, and so highly recommended. It's a very easy read. He's a very good writer, and I can link that in the description as well if you're interested. So another. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because it's kind of oh no, sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say it's like sometimes the lack of education thing. Like where else would we know these things? It's not something that is taught really in school. So how else are we gonna know? So I love like
Right, for
great
sure.
books and good recommendations.
So
How else do we know these things?
why can you expand a little bit on why fermented foods
All
are
right, what
good
else
for
you got?
you? I know you talked about, we have a gut garden of bacteria, but why is that important? Like, can you, yeah.
Yeah. So it really just comes down to like the size of the thing. It's so crazy. And as we're getting more and more research into it and just more understanding of what's actually going on, it's so cool to me that it's like its own ecosystem, right? That's living inside of us. And again, our DNA that makes us us doesn't even stand a chance to how much of those guys are inside of us. So we're so much more,
Yeah, no.
I call it microbial than we even are human, which is crazy. So and it's such an unknown, like untouched place of information right now. It's so new, that the level of importance and guidance on how to feed that properly, like that is really where, I mean, in my practice, again, I was saying like I'm known as the gut health person because everything comes back to there. If you can imagine, like again, if there's more of them than there is us, and that's who controls our immune system, our brain function, our cravings, our hormones, like everything's in there. So feeding it properly. So every single time we eat, we're either moving down the spectrum towards better health or away from better health. Each piece of food, each choice that we make puts us on somewhere on that spectrum. And if those are the guys running the show, ultimately, the importance of knowing how to fuel them, and sources like fermented foods are just easy, quick ways to that they like. Those are things that
Awesome.
they like.
Okay, so one more
that's why
question.
I do like those.
Somebody
kind of foods.
said that going meatless is too hard, but reduced meat dishes would be great. Do you have any suggestions for somebody who is trying to make that transition from eating meat on a daily or regular basis and going towards that, I guess, goal of reducing their meat intake?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a big mindset shift because again, we're coming from, the standard American diet where we talked about the first day, meat is like the main event to our meals. We plan everything around it as opposed to using it as, I call it like a condiment, right? Like a topping, a side dish, like to the other things. So I would think it would be fun to think of your meals and like pick one dish. So say it's lunch or dinner or something. Even breakfast, if you're finding that a meat product is like the centerpiece of it. Um, Figure out what kind of recipe you could make that is again plant based, right? And then sprinkle in your meat if you need to have it there. But I think you'll notice if you lead with the plant based side of things, there's not really room for it. Like you're full, you're satisfied, whether it's a texture thing. Sorry, you can definitely find things to kind of meet the same textures, but you don't find, again, I think it's a mindset shift of how are you planning out the meal? Because again, we're like, okay, I'm having chicken for dinner. What am I going to have with it? Like, isn't that the conversation all the time? It's not like, oh, I'm going to try this. I don't know. The other day I made like this butternut squash, black bean enchilada skillet, like so many words, right? And this thing was huge and it was so good and it had nothing in it. Like it had butternut squash, spinach, and black beans, and like enchilada spices. And I actually made it for a bunch of firefighters and totally tricked them because they were like, I mean, think about them too. All they eat is like, meat and potatoes and lasagna all the time. And you don't miss it in that sense. So again, I think it's a mindset shift of when you plan out your meal or when you think about what you're about to go have, it's not, okay, I'm having steak tonight. What's going with it? Like let's get a little more fun with our recipes or thought processes and just take a minute because we're conditioned. I mean, we grew up
That's
like
very,
this.
very
So
good advice.
kind of like
Thank you for
foraging your
that.
own way right now. Yeah, I'm living it. Don't worry. I do the same. I love both things. So it's been fun to kind of experiment and again, like see where you feel like you're missing
Awesome.
it
So
and
we'll give our
why,
chat
like what
people a
comes up next.
few
So cool.
seconds to chime in if they have any last minute questions. And I don't know, Amanda, do you have any other ideas or questions for me?
What else? I know. I'm so excited, about your recipes from yesterday. So if you guys didn't get the download resources from yesterday, those are going to be helpful for both. I gave you a grocery list on how to incorporate more plant-based foods, and then Pat gives you like the how to put them together, which is the part that I needed the most help with. So it's cool to again combine both things. So make sure you grab those downloads.
Definitely.
So you can start doing it at home.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Like I mentioned before, if you have any other ideas or thoughts, questions, concerns that come to you after you're done watching, or if you're watching the replay, feel free to leave them in the comments below. You also get our contact information if you want to reach out to us directly. And I think that's going to be it for today's video and our 3-day live training. I hope you guys enjoyed it and got some value out of it. And yeah. And thank you, Amanda. And thanks for everybody that
hanging
joined
out,
and
guys.
participated. And we'll see you, I guess, in a future video.
you.
All right. See you guys later.